But I have already revealed to you a little bit in general how much some of the top games earn, plus or minus. Okay, let's move on. What other niches there are? I just inserted this slide so that you don't drown in this amount. Here you go. Construct is, how does it run the game? It kind of creates a browser for each like APK file inside of which it launches the game.
Hey guys, this is Grishakov. Our guest today is Artur Stogney. Artur, hi.
Hi, everybody.
Remember, we had an interview quite a while ago with Artur, and it went super well. It was very helpful. Artur is the creator of Noob vs. Pro Team and Easy Game Dev. We're going to have an unusual format today. Artur has a presentation. We're going to show it and walk through it. In fact, it's a masterclass on how to make money from HTML5 games. We've been asked several times in the comments to do a bigger story about HTML5 games, and in fact, this niche is more than alive right now. And Artur is just about the business of publishing HTML5 games. So let's probably get started.
Yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to convey to you. I thought that now we would have this interview for a larger audience rather than the previous occasion, which reached only a limited number of individuals. So that's why I've made more of a focus on beginners. So we're going to talk a lot about what niches there are, what you can make a game about in general. In browser games and including Google Play, their App Store, wherever you want. In general, these trends that exist, well, if something is popular in Google Play, it is likely to be in demand in browser games as well. There are no super specifics.
Let me explain a little bit at once. Artur, we first did a masterclass at the GameArter Club. And now, because the information is super useful, we're doing it for everyone. Okay?
Yeah, well, let's get started. So I'll tell you right off the bat, HTML5 games. They're basically browser-based games. It's like the old days when there were Flash games, but now they're kind of an adaptation of Flash. Something's going on with them. Their story is over, as I understand it. And now began, well, that is the site admins who used to take Flash games. They now began to HTML5 games to insert on their sites. And in fact, this theme also lives, they just switched a little bit. That is, the story here is that like it's mostly some kind of organic search or advertising sites themselves to the games they have on their site. I mean, it's all played from PCs, from cell phones, in the browser directly. You don't need any special stores, just different sites that take the games. Well, for example, one of which, is Yandex.Games.
Well, anyway, I personally spent a lot of time on Barman Games, Congregate, now it's Yandex.Games, and this whole thing, it went from Flash games to HTML5 games, right?
Yeah. Well, we're trying to make money from them. Well, we're not trying to make money. We're trying to make more money. Well, Eugene already told you about me. So what I do originally, I was just developing games myself, purely as an indie developer from scratch. Then a small team of freelancers came up. So we decided to put our games on Google Play. We also made them available on the App Store a little bit. And then we switched to these browser sites, and now it turns out that we get more income from them than from Google Play. Well, because of the recent events. And in general, we were less involved in Google Play here, and we switched to these sites. And as if at their expense, in fact, we live about the same as before. Here, now we just need to deal with Google Play. Maybe it will be even better. And then we realized that, I realized that to deal with all these sites. You'll see there are a lot of them. It's complicated. And to simplify the life of developers and themselves, as it were, on this kind of business, to build such a business, we decided to publishers and other people's games too. That is, guys come to us, they say, here you are, there's something, like here is a kind of game, what should we do with it so that it was an additional income? We say, here, implement this plugin, here we are, there, design, deal with everything. And as if the game begins to bring there some, as a rule, a small but quite stable passive income. That is, you do not need to invest there, nothing like that, transfer the game, and it is, then let's talk about how much you can really earn if you're an indie developer. As far as I understand, some of the big studios that have millions of dollars, they may not be quite interested in the HTML5 market. As far as I understand, I could be wrong because it's not that long ago. We have all this history, but usually these are the games that I see. I mean, I have not come across games that have generated millions of dollars. Most of them are small projects where you can create a game inexpensively and it will bring you some amount of money, like around 10,000 rubles a month, maybe 50 or 100, but hardly more than 200. It has already proven to be this way. It's kind of rare here. And then on to the numbers. So approximately, well, there will be very general figures because, it's like a developer will come up to you and ask how much you can earn in Google Play. Well, from minus $1,000 or up to $1 billion. Here, thank God the margins are smaller. So it's a little bit easier to say, well, in general, like a month game can bring, well, such an average good but not professional something from $50 to $1,500 a month, very roughly. Here, if the game didn't work, it's usually $10 less or something like that, but it's usually $10 a month. These are some very weak projects without a niche, without anything. As if they are designed shabbily, they usually show themselves in Google Play very, very badly. Here, if the game is in the tops, it's about $3,000 a month.
How much does a top project earn per month?
We have less than this amount. Well, let's say it depends. If the game was recently released, it's more there. Well, usually somewhere. In my opinion, the game did not bring more than $100 or euros per day here. Well, and it was at the start. Then the game usually subsides. That is, if you cool game unloaded, it is in the beginning. There are $50 to $100. It may well carry or something like that. Then it subsides, well, say several times. Well, then in principle, quite stable. The income is coming. That is, if we take, for example, our income. So if we put everything out there, we had, for example, there, well, it was, I remember there were 20,000 rubles a day. Then there in the worst, we can say, times when these games there sat down, they carry not 20, but 5,000 a day. But in general, it's good enough as it is. Indeed, it is uncommon for it to decrease to absolute zero. In fact, such a scenario may not even exist. It holds a certain degree of significance if the game initially displayed itself positively. These are probably some of the best results that I've seen in this market. It's somewhere around, well, up to $1,000 a day. It's right in the tops. There's a game hanging everywhere. There's a manager of some site says everything is like this. We have there maximum from one game or there 500 per day. These are the sums that were approximately here, but you can't count on them. It should lead to here then, about the sites. I'll go for a little bit.
The most important slide, yes, where you can be placed.
Yes, where you can be placed. Here we didn't work with all of them. There are a lot of them, but we worked with most of them. Let me tell you briefly about each of them. So Facebook Instant Games, we haven't worked with them. If, by the way, you have any experience, please write in the comments. It will be interesting how good this store is. Here, there were some other stores that I didn't include in the list. For example, there's Mi Store, Oppo, Vivo, these little places. Either they're very hard to get into or they're very hard to get into. And it's like, profit from them is doubtful. Either Google doesn't work with them, Google advertising, and it's difficult with them. For the sake of a small site, you can't put a separate advertisement there, or there's just a very small profit. You think it's easier to make a new game there instead of putting something out there? It's about, for example, Samsung. Here we went to the Samsung Galaxy store. Yes, theoretically, you have the ability to place a game there, and AdMob is compatible with it. AdMob has a feature where you can select an option to display ads in that location, but that is enough, The results are small. And then Yandex.Games, that's probably the best. This platform is likely the top choice for beginners. It has a high amount of traffic with about 90% of the audience being Russian. Therefore, it's important to have your game translated into Russian. Russian, there in general. Well, you can earn a lot. In principle, if you want to, you can work only on Yandex.Games and in principle about the rest. Well, this of course will be to your disadvantage if you forget about all the others, but in principle you can do so. Here, well, as for moderation, there is such a story in general. We have not encountered any bans. Generally, in general, in HTML5, well, they can reject if, for example, They reject, for example, mostly, well, they like to reject your game for all sorts of things, but then most likely they'll let you in if you make all the edits. We try to tell the guys in advance what kind of venue there are. Well, in general, what are the requirements of the venues with fewer rejections. Here, then Puck Games work with them. You can work with them through game distribution, for example. In general, it's quite, well, a large platform, but we don't work with it directly. We work through GD. Here, well, I know the guys who are placed on it separately. I don't know about their results yet. They will tell me later what's going on with them. Later.
And then I don't know, can I ask you right away just to clarify another question? There is Yandex.Games, right? This is the main platform for laying out. What percentage of revenue does it generate in your entire publishing house?
Just on HTML5?
Yeah, just HTML5.
So I'll tell you right now, it brings in a lot of, well, I think about 20 to 30%, maybe something. Well.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to simply mention 70%. Is it really the case that Yandex.Games accounts for around 20, 30% of all these platforms?
Yes. Well, there will be less than 50. There are still good sites here. It's mostly Amazon. It's very strong there too.
Here, you can tell me the approximate percentage of these sites, well, or allocate, for example, this Yandex.Games to 40%, well, about 30.
Puck Games.
So that the importance of the guys in the head formed the stage of laying out the game?
Well, for example, I can't say about Puck Games because it's through game distribution, that's it. So no matter how I measured on a separate site, some percentage, then Smart Market, all I know about it is that they spend on these games. We didn't work with them. I talked to a coder who worked with them. I worked with them once. I did some games for them. He says, well, it's a complicated story. I mean, it's not like the appearance of the game won't suggest that we created it. Instead, we embedded a plugin and distributed it widely, only making small adjustments when necessary. In this scenario, we need to work individually. The profitability of all this, well, so doubtful, and plus our games are unlikely to fit there. Therefore, we did not work with it. Then VK. As for VK, well, that is a platform that also has a tendency to reject users for various reasons. Additionally, they require extra social features. Here's another thing. Lately, they have changed their focus. Previously, they used to compensate developers a portion of the revenue generated from advertisements displayed in their game. And then they limited something there. Well, CPM, in short, limited as far as I understand, and the income became even less. In general, we had a story with VK such that here even, well, as if here is a percentage is also difficult to call, because in the beginning we posted everything is cool. We were like, oh, there goes a couple thousand a day or 1,002 a day. We were like, oh, not bad, not bad. Basically, you can. Well, that's from one game. Why don't you put more out there? And then we're like, the game's really slipping, it's slipping, it's slipping. And literally there, well, not in a few months, but literally in a few days or a week, it has already started to bring in something like 50 24-hour rubles. We were like, well, wait, let's not be in a hurry to put everything out there. Let's ask other guys. I've been talking to a lot of the guys I've talked to over there. Well, I understand that very many of the games on VK are slipping a lot. Here, in principle, from this platform, you can work, yes, try, maybe you'll have some history after all. Well, I mean, another story. Maybe there will come in some other games, more such for housewives as it is because we have such children's games and they are still in the top. They bring good when they fell down, then already ASO traffic does not help there. Here. Then, so Game Monetize, basically, they are the dudes who completely copied game distribution, quite brazenly, and used to be called that. Then they changed their name to Game Monetize. It's basically the same story as GDM, but only, well, I heard rumors about their AdMob account facing some difficulties. Nonetheless, it's worth noting that both game distribution and Game Monetize portals incorporate Google Ads within their plugins. So it's like AdSense on the sites. But they added it directly into the plugin with advertising here. And, well, as if game distribution is a large holding, they are worth more than €1 billion. They were not happy, of course, that someone copied their idea. And apparently Google went along with them and banned Game Monetize. Perhaps they have already solved it somehow. But in general, we decided not to work with them, especially not to spoil relations with game distribution. Here, now as for GDM, it's also a good enough platform. In fact, it is an aggregator for many other platforms. With the help of it, you can, Well, what's the story? They post your game and then invite the admins of many sites to take this game for themselves. Here, I mean, basically, it's like Google Play in reverse or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, they post your game, then the admins of different sites, here, for example, Paco Games, they can see this game. Not that they will see it and take it. No, not at all. But if they like it, then like if they want, they can take it. And then like they get their share of income. You get yours. GD gets his. That's it. That's the story. Approximately, if we talk in percentages, well, it's roughly comparable to Yandex. But if I said about Yandex 20, 30%, well, let's say 30. This one is probably about 20 or something like that. Here, well, in general, we now have many more games on GD totaling a larger quantity here. So maybe it takes 30, but in general, they roughly are equal. Capitalize the income by distributing your games on Yandex. However, this task can be extremely time consuming for them. Hence, I fail to comprehend its significance since their efforts are expended. They don't mind if you put it out there yourself. That is, they allow it. But with other sites, as it seems, there is a story that the sites are not particularly happy when you put your game everywhere.
It's weird.
Many people want some exclusivity. And because of this, problems begin, which is what we're about to get to now. One of our former employees arrived at the location, which is relatively compact. The game got picked up there. He was making money for a period of time. While it was at its peak, there was a daily income of approximately $500. However, this changed when he fell out of the top position. Nevertheless, this profitable phase lasted for a while. Presently, I believe the income has significantly decreased, but there is still some revenue. Though I cannot confirm this as I have not recently spoken to him. I will need to inquire about it. This particular website faces a peculiar issue as it desires to be extremely exclusive. Its objective is to solely accommodate your presence. Furthermore, if you happen to have registered your game on Yandex, then you must have registered it there. Your game would have undoubtedly been registered on that website. Please take a look at this incredible game I have created and kindly let me know your thoughts. Although there might not be an immediate response, I believe in your ability to handle it. Have faith in yourself. You can do it.
So you don't know what to do next, right? Either post it everywhere or wait for the operator. Yeah.
I guess if they haven't responded in a couple of months, it's definitely not going to happen. That's the story they tell. You can attempt to persuade them to participate in your game. But if they refuse, then what? Put it out to the rest of the world. Here, then Crazy Games. It is also remarkably powerful. It has a lot of traffic. You can work with it either through game distribution or directly. But then we have to make a choice that it wants to be exclusive. It also wants to be exclusive, and for exclusivity, it adds, I think, 50% to the revenue. That is, it promotes your game more and more in principle, so the result will be better if you go in there directly. To get in there directly, in general, in my experience with her, the game that was posted, our partners are the only ones there. Well, they directly put it there. They began with a daily budget of $50. The game was an intriguing one that I dare not disclose. It belonged to a widely loved and specialized category. In the beginning, it was $50 a day. Then it started going for $5 a day. That's why, in general, it's not really representative, not really clear, but we work with it through game distribution too. Here, although directly, I'm also considering working with them. Now we are beginning our collaboration with Odnoklassniki, although they are currently encountering a significant issue that we must address. We are striving to work together efficiently to resolve this problem in a timely manner. I would like to undertake this task because it is my belief that it is specifically for the benefit of the developers. This proposed action would serve to alleviate their burden in this regard, as all the necessary tasks would be consolidated. It involves visiting the tax office, composing letters, and dispatching various items. All right, I'm currently in progress. In general, I don't have much information about it. I noticed that asking other developers, what do you think of the site, is often a questionable thing to do, especially if they are inexperienced guys. You can kind of ask them about Google Play. They'll say, well, it's nothing, $1 a day or a cent a day. That's it. That's why we're working with them now. Then GameArter. That too, I'll tell you about them briefly. You can work with them through GDM, but in general, it's a separate portal. We haven't worked with them directly yet. We can try them in principle, but I'm waiting for the developers I know who have recently sent their games to them when they will upload them and say whether it makes sense to go there at all. whether to go in or not. And then that leaves Amazon. Basically, everything we've posted on Amazon, it doesn't really fit in this top in the sense that we used to post APK files there. But since not so long ago, they've also got HTML files, but I haven't tried to post them there yet. I don't know what exactly is different in general, there. We also collaborate with this website, including for male individuals. We have already shared a post there, but we have not yet seen any results since Amazon does not provide payment to Russia. Well, it has never paid to Russia, but it used to be possible to get around that. With the help of the TransferWise e-wallet, you could open an account there in pounds sterling. Or indeed, I submitted a request to my bank for an account denominated in pounds. Once it was set up, I proceeded to transfer funds to Amazon and subsequently used their platform to send money to Russia. However, as unfortunate events unfolded, or rather exceedingly dire circumstances transpired, that's why there was this hole again, that it's not clear how to get from there. That's why I decided to form a partnership with some colleagues in Cyprus. They send money to us, receive it on our behalf, and then send it back to us, deducting a small commission for themselves. This is how the problem was eventually resolved. It is definitely worth it, considering that Amazon can generate substantial earnings comparable to Yandex and its financial benefits. Well, in principle, it's about the same. Here, although the story is different, we are placed on it. It's like a premium store that is paid games there. Here, and it's all good enough. In some
You make money from mobile games, basically, right? So you make APK files of your mobile games and upload them?
Yes.
As a paid project? Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay, so, well, with the sites, okay, we're done. Then a little bit of research. I was interested then still, but I have already burned you a little bit. In general, how much earn? There are some, you can say, top games give or take, but in general, I asked the admins of sites. In general, how much they can earn top games in general, on what figures? Count on here. In general, I was told that approximately from $5,000 to $20,000 a month. Well, more precisely, actually euros, but now it's not important. Now it's long here. In general, here's the story. Many of these top games are owned by quite, well, large companies. In fact, A-Game and Soft Games Azerion is a well-established holding that encompasses various domains, such as game distribution and much more. Its breadth of operations is truly remarkable. Places. That's why, well, maybe the thing is that they're very good at marketing themselves through their own, like, partners. Here, perhaps, well, this is the reason why well, there are just games. Some are quite weak. There are, yes, famous. If it's a third-party developer and there's only one game, it's usually something famous like Paper.io. Yes, many people have probably heard of it. There's a lot of advertising for it. And there is a kind of Bubble Game 3. Here it is on the third screen. There's just something on the ball shoots. There's like nothing. It's special. I don't really see how a game like that could work. It's probably very old because it's just a very good game. Well, perhaps individuals genuinely adore it to such a great extent. Essentially, it is quite pleasant. Of course, any game that is bad, not direct or weak, would be exceptionally straightforward. In general, Fireboy and Water Girl is popular, if not talking about each individually. However, if we consider the top, they are particularly popular. It's like, how do you say, not even a niche? It's just a series of games.
They were flashcards once. I've
Super
played
old.
them.
Yeah, really, really old. Then, so there's a lot of those merge games. All in all, it's a little bit like Google Play. Also, in general, there are a lot of games I see in the tops. And Google Play, well, for example, there is Stickman Hook, some kind of, here it is hanging in the top now on the Poki. Here it is, probably generating like about $500,000 a day. That's about what I think he's bringing in purely from this site here. I mean, people there know, plus Stickman is kind of a popular topic. Well, we'll talk about popular topics below. There's going to be a lot of information. I've got it. I've opened my big list where there are all kinds of special topics. I mean, things that are in demand. At least something you can test out here. And I've written a lot of it. Okay, that's it. I think you can go below here in general if you want to explore these games. If you can't see them on the video, you can email me here. I'll give them to you without any problems if you want to test what kind of game it is. Okay, another interesting point that in browser games, for example, I learned about donate. I thought here in general, if you introduce donations, as in Google Play here with this wager, it will give some kind of buff to the game or not. But as you can see, as far as I understand, at least as far as I've been told by the site admins, they're saying like, well, no, not really. A small percentage of the revenue comes from donations. A very large percentage of revenue is from advertising, and it's generally seen donations. They're generally present in HTML games sometimes. Some of them, it's not unheard of, but maybe 10% have less. Here, in general, they are not actively used. Here, that's why we don't use them either. No donations at all here, and with the purchase of traffic. Also, as far as I understand, this whole market mainly lives on organic. That is, Yandex attracts players in principle to its platform there, Yandex Games, and it is already there to get their games that people will find most interesting. So in essence, you can all that you earn there on the platforms. Essentially, it can all be pure profit if you do not have their employees or any additional income. That is on advertising here, especially even do not have to spend on advertising, although there may be some connections. I don't want to limit you. Maybe someone is engaged in. Next, there will be a substantial number of slides depicting the topics that I have assigned for beginners and those of moderate difficulty. It may include information on how to address beginners, perhaps using terms like average or similar. We are indeed covering all of these aspects in our presentation. Topics here. The games are somehow fast enough, interesting, understandable. Here, I like this approach. More than getting too deep into some project, into analytics there and all these kinds of topics. I get bored when I'm working on something like that. Here, let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's discuss what we possess. By that, I mean, I'm going to present some topics to you that have the potential for creating a game, which is likely to be in demand. Creating a game with no specific genre or purpose greatly reduces the likelihood of it being available on Google Play or discoverable on any platform. This decreases the chance of exposure to potential players. Your title that you came up with, no one's going to think of it. And these themes and the other themes that are going to be discussed, they are the game series Five Nights at Freddy's, FNAF for short, is highly popular due to the multitude of games available. However, one must exercise caution in exploring these themes as it can be a slippery slope and potentially infringe on someone's trademark. Be mindful. Brand, here. So it's best to look at each site individually. You Google Five Nights at Freddy's. There are games like that on Google Play. If there's only the original and no others, then there were probably others, but they've been scavenged. So they're kind of like. But on some sites, for example, like Yandex, there are often quite brazenly, there are all kinds of tags like that, right? Like someone's brands here, and it's probably pretty safe. I take my chances. Here, for example. Okay, this one. I don't remember if it's official or not. So anyway, all right, that's the theme. You'll comprehend the subject we're discussing. Let's begin. Phenomenal niche to stigmans. This passage contains 160 characters. I already told you about them, I think, in that interview, if I'm not mistaken or not. Well,
I don't remember. How long ago was that?
Okay, I'll tell you a second time. Here, it's a very big niche. I mean, there are videos on YouTube about stigmans, about these multicolored people. These are very old videos, but still new ones are coming out and gaining a lot of views on YouTube. Games are still coming out and gaining millions of downloads in a month. That tells us that the niche is still alive. What people like, they Google it, they find it, what satisfies their conditions, some kind of quality, some kind of interest, they download it. Naturally, that means there's money in it, and that's very good. Here, for example, is the game Stigman Supreme Duelist. It has 100 million downloads, so it's a lot, but it means from 100 million to 500 million. We don't know how much is there exactly, given that it's had 100 million for a very long time. It could be 200. In order to gain a deeper comprehension of these topics, one must indulge in the most popular games within this domain and watch trending videos on platforms like YouTube. Utilize the popularity filters provided by Bill Stigman's website to assess people's interests and preferences regarding these games and determine what they expect or enjoy. It is through these means that we can establish a clearer understanding of the content. Moreover, cartoons relating to these games also contribute to one's comprehension. Okay, let's move on to Among Us. There are a lot of games, including on Google Play, that contain the words Among Us, because it is a well-known word pairing which poses a challenging hurdle to prohibit. Take Minecraft as an example. There it exists as a distinct word. It is quite simple to obtain a trademark for it, ensuring it is not inadvertently employed in your game. Its usage is intentionally exclusive. Similarly, a game named Wolf Among Us also shares a resemblance with Among Us and may therefore be included in its indexing. In case you haven't played the game Among Us, it doesn't look like what's pictured here. It's exactly made. It's something out there. Along with this word is often used imposter, that is, a traitor, something that's kind of player killer in the original game. And together, these tags are often shoved. And then there's some platformer they made or something like that. And it got a lot of downloads. As I recall, I think it's 5 to 10 million on Google Play. Then we go on from there. Minecraft, that's a huge niche as well. Popular, I think, pretty much always here in the screenshot. We have the game Skyland. Naturally, it's also an unofficial game. It's not Minecraft. It's just some developer long enough ago made a game. In the mod Minecraft Skyblock, he named his game Skyland, resembling a land floating in the sky. I believe Mahjong Minecraft was one of the requests that prompted its release. Alternatively, just Mahjong, as stated in the description. It's worth clarifying that this game has no affiliation with Mahjong Minecraft. That's the main focus here. It's a very Polish topic. But in all these years, he's never been scolded for basically using someone else's trademark. But he wrote, like, we don't use the trademark. That's a tricky one. However, engaging in such activities carries its own risks. Nevertheless, if you are an unemployed developer, the potential consequences may not be as severe. Getting banned from a website is not the end of the world. The crucial thing is to avoid acting foolishly, but that's just how it goes. For example, so what we have below is enough. Here we have this Poppy Playtime, which is Hagiwagi. This is the character in blue. And together they combine them in a game with the Squid Game. This is the game that's on the screen. It's not very popular. I think it's only got about 0 downloads. I just took it because it's a mix of two themes. This is the Hagiwagi escaping from prison. And these squid playing men are kind of guarding them. That's sometimes used too. Although you can take and one niche, do not mix a lot, although in principle two mixed. Here, for example, in the picture on the left, by the way, and my mouse is visible at all.
Yes.
Good. Here, for example, we have an unusual picture of Hagiwagi. That's because it's from Friday Night Funkin'. It's a game too. It's a little lower down. It's a musical game. You have to like press the arrows in time. And the character sings. It's also highly popular, quite in demand. And there's this Hagiwagi that's weirdly drawn. That's somebody who took Friday Night Funkin'. Took the Hagiwagi, put it together, like he's singing there too, and you have to sing there, or so he can't catch up with you, or he's just standing on stage next to you and he's singing too. And then they kind of use those words to promote themselves for those queries that come up in the top. But be careful. Poppy, Playtime, and Hagiwagi it is. So you have to be careful. You can write Hagi, then some word, then Wagi. You probably won't get banned for that. Here, and what is surprising, for very similar images of characters, but not copies as a rule, do not get banned. Because after all, these humans are like a Squid Game, but not a Squid Game. This one looks like a Hagiwagi, but not from the game. Stolen model. That's why...
We're abroad right now. I observed that Hagiwagi is the most popular toy. So it's not only in Russia, but everywhere. Yes, Hagiwagi is everywhere abroad too. I don't know, some kind of Hagiwagi trend is going on all over the world.
That's awesome. It surprises me too when I see it. It's popular abroad too.
Very creepy, huh? Very creepy. Not really, but everyone's really into him.
I bet, yeah. It's interesting that they don't draw him cute. I mean, in a toy. They make him with teeth, which is scary. He's there when it's just a red smile and all that, which isn't scary. It makes me scary. Maybe this one sells better. I don't know. Pretty amazing. Why are the kids so young? How did they even know? Man, I didn't know his name was Hagiwagi. I knew it was Poppy Playtime. I would have thought his name was Poppy. But it's a different doll there. It is awe-inspiring how quickly they grasp things. Being considerably older, I struggle to comprehend it. Okay, let's move on. What other niches are there? I just put this slide in so you don't drown in this amount, but you can just pick something from this. If you don't know what to make a game about, if you create a game that is relevant, I mean, for instance, if you're like involved in its development or something similar, well, there. Let's say this is what we have Minecraft, and the man made, well, Minecraft in 2Ds. This is exactly what players are basically looking for on the phone. What can be built? That is, if he made a typical platformer there or races, for example, it would be super irrelevant and would not go. So always keep an eye on it. It's a very common mistake with newcomers. When I tell them, here's a niche, and they kind of offer a bunch of irrelevant ideas. So a player will find your game. He'll look at it, he'll look at the screenshot and realize it's not what he's looking for and walk away. Google will see that you have a conversion rate to the installation is low, will start your game downgrade. Well, or not Google, there are other sites. But in general, it's kind of for the game is uncool will end up in the sense that it will just carry little or nothing at all, quite possibly 10 rubles a day. That's not much. Okay, so then Mr. Mead, it's it's a horror game too. It's popular on Google Play. It had about 700 and 800,000 downloads on Google Play last month. And I think another 200 downloads on Web Store. Well, overall, I wouldn't say it's a super popular niche, but for sure. It's being Googled somewhere, you know, like on HTML sites. And on HTML sites, it's often possible to use Mr. Mead just as it is. And it's unlikely that anyone will catch wind of it. Here on Yandex, for example, they often use it right in the name of Minecraft. There's Creeper versus Minecraft. And you think, shit. Oh my goodness. Well, now let's move on to a different subject. It used to be quite trendy, but it's not as popular nowadays. Serena Head. Siren Head, for example. These guys made a game, Scary Head Feud. That is what we see on the screenshot. It's not some original game or something. It's purely made under this niche in general. Pro Siren Head. They have 100,000 installations last month. That's what in general, well, good enough. So let me tell you about Friday Night Funkin'. There are loads of games made by developers who take famous characters and create gameplay for Friday Night Funkin' featuring them. They even include characters from the original game. The key point is that these games have a musical element. If they don't have music, they're unlikely to be successful because, well, when it comes to games for children or anyone in general, music plays a crucial role. From this audience looking for Friday Night Funkin', they expect something musical where you have to press arrows or buttons. Here. Then Playground. There was a game that came out on Steam once. People Playground. It's very similar to what we see on the screen. So you have to make fun of people. It's some kind of super violent game. You have to tear them apart, kill them, stuff like that. And it's become very popular and it's making a lot of money on Steam. I think according to my calculations, it was something like 1 billion rubles. And it's so simple. It's like this, but everybody really enjoyed making fun of it. The developer got rich. And then clones started appearing. For example, this game on the screenshot, it's called, I think, Melon Playground. Melon is a watermelon or a melon.
Lesha, melon?
Melon, huh? I don't know why, by the way. Maybe because the man is green, like an unripe melon. Why? He called it that. Well, to make a long story short, there's the word playground. And in general, this game is also quite popular. Actually, it's on Google Play in the last month. It's got like... seriously, 1 million downloads? Seriously, it's unreal. I spotted it at the top alongside various other things. Essentially, someone noticed this game on Steam and decided to create it for Google Play. The demand may exist to some extent, but likely not as much. Nevertheless, it's highly unlikely he achieved 1 million organic downloads. You can rely on a specific amount of installs on HTML sites while experiencing limited traffic. That is, it's already kind of a niche. You can do something like this to make fun of people, to understand what exactly people like in these games. Well, in principle, in general, it is clear what functions they need there. And do something similar. So I think we'll run out of niches soon. So games for 2 or 4 players. For example, here we have a Stickman party game. It's called that. For 1 to 4 players. So you can play with bots alone. You can play with friends. There's a lot of mini games. For example, the view from the top. A man sits down at the corner of his tablet or phone. He moves his finger. His character does something. Running away from a ghost. There's all sorts of mini games. In today's world, games are highly sought after by individuals who enjoy playing with friends. Oftentimes, when people are unsure about what game to play, they may resort to searching online. This explains the existence of a specific market catering to this need. The demand for such games seems to remain steady over time. Browser-based games provide a convenient way for individuals to have fun without the need to download or become familiar with new software. That's why it's convenient. Yeah, Okay, I don't think we're done with that. So we have super.
Hey, can I ask you more niche questions? Are there any HTML5 multiplayer games in general?
I don't believe there are any present. However, engaging in multiplayer games is not something we are inclined to do. I am not a supporter nor a fan of multiplayer experiences. My preference always leans towards utilizing artificial intelligence. If the game were to introduce such feature, we would contemplate the possibility in theory. But I'm kind of always in favor of bots. That's why.
How
It's more a
popular
question
is
of,
it? Have you come across any top-ranked multiplayer games? It's something we can utilize effectively. Unity technology to put HTML5 into a multiplayer game.
I haven't noticed, probably because I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that, so I haven't even looked. There might be something like that, but I think if there were a lot of them, I'd probably notice. Yeah, I think there was some multiplayer, but I think I was on Poki. I think some kind of multiplayer game, but I'm not sure it's not a bot. It might
It could
still be a
still be.
possibility. Fake players. Yeah, there was something with multiplayer, but I don't know. Could be fake. In general, if you have an interest in any of these niches, it is advisable to visit Google Trends to see the frequency of searches for these games on Google. I have listed some examples here. Mr. Mig, Huggy Wuggy, People Playground, Friday Night Funkin', and Among Us. If the settings make it difficult to visualize, please refer to the mentioned names at the top. I mean, these are the titles of the games. And then I chose worldwide. But if you're looking for Yandex, you have to search for Russia, or in Yandex WordStat. Maybe it's even more efficient that way. In general, it doesn't make sense to assume that Nishi could die 10 times within 12 months. However, it's plausible to consider this over a longer time span, such as several years. I believe 5 years would be a reasonable estimate. Yes, then it means that it is desirable to choose the category of games because, for example, words among us, they can occur just like that, like a person is looking for something else. When games are introduced, there is a substantial decrease in the demand represented by the purple line. Consequently, we have successfully excluded some irrelevant queries here and web search, but in general, you need to look at web search and YouTube, because if there are videos on YouTube about something, they are constantly coming out. They're popular, they have 10+ million views. So it's like a niche that's alive. It's all in demand. I already knew I was going to get tired by this point. The first time when I did this presentation, last time I did this presentation too, it didn't have all the slides about niches. I decided to add this to make it clearer. What is popular about engines? In general, this is almost the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions on engines, here's the story. We have our entire studio built on Construct 3. And it turned out to be a very good solution. I thought so for a long time. Cool dudes are sitting on Unity, but we're fools on Construct. Some obscure one. Maybe we should move on. But I don't want to code so much. I don't want to figure it all out. My main interest is game development. I prefer focusing on creativity over mathematics. And it turns out that Construct is much more suitable for HTML games compared to Unity. In Unity, they mostly have 3-dimensional games, which can be quite resource intensive. However, in Construct, you can also code. We have some individuals who have joined us from Unity, and they have successfully coded their games. These games have a somewhat stable and passive income. They offer hyper-casual games which have a very relaxed nature. These games are notably light in terms of complexity. If we are talking about a significantly heavier game like Open World or World of Warcraft 2, I don't know, maybe it won't even pull it. Maybe there will be a problem there, not even in terms of lags, but in the fact that the game takes a very long time to download. For example, if I go to some HTML portal through VPN, I have a game on Unity that requires 3 hours to load, which is quite time consuming. I suppose individuals with slow internet or residing in remote countries may encounter difficulties. This can affect their earnings, although it doesn't necessarily hinder a fulfilling gaming experience. That's where it's gonna go. Plus, Construct runs through the browser. It works through the browser in principle. So you make the game in the browser, and when you run Construct, it launches the game. It creates a browser for each APK file, inside of which it launches the game. That's how it works as far as I know. Then it means that we have other engines that we can work with. This is the default. We have never worked with the default. I'll tell you right away, but ideally, if you have this engine and you contact us, it should work because the plugin we work with supports this engine. There is also Cocos 2 engine. There's two of them. There's two kinds of them.
We have one game on Coconut, match 3.
I think the Chinese are using it very actively. I think,
So that,
yeah.
it was
I'm
a
looking
mistake to
at-
mess with the Coconut. I think so. Oh, bad?
Block? What is it? Why?
Well, it's hard to find a developer. Standard, by the way, it's hard to find a developer. It's easy to
Yes.
find a developer just for Construct and for Unity. So, well, I guess the best choice.
Well, man, I remember when I first started, I was thinking a lot between Construct 2 and this ClickTim Fusion. I was just like, look, the engines are the same. I don't really see any difference. I mean, it's minimal, you know. In ClickTim, textures can be modified with a collision mask that changes dynamically, allowing for cutting. However, Construct does not support this feature. Effects of actions like shooting a bazooka in Vorums are permanently present in the map. A hole in Construct it is. Anyway, it was impossible to do it before. Now the mospoders already know it. I don't do it myself anymore. I don't develop such complicated things. Maybe it's already possible. Yes, well, Construct turned out to be a great solution. Here, and also in general, games can be published that have... Well, I think I'm the developer. Here, but I don't know exactly. We also have only Unity. That's really who comes to us. Other engines, well, there were practically no other engines. There was something there. There was something, maybe a couple of games that were pretty weak. That's it. That's the whole history of engines. Yes, I wanted to offer this opportunity to anyone in need, whether they are an individual or a team, or even if they are a specialist. It could be that you are an artist or just someone with a business mindset. Just let me know if you are interested. By the way, I am currently reading the book From Good to Great, which emphasizes the importance of selecting the right people first before determining what to do. Adding on to that, if we find a competent and intelligent person, we can definitely collaborate and achieve something great together. This is a common approach that often yields successful results. There are a few design concepts we can explore, like creating logos specifically for developers and developing various themes. And I think, shit, I can't do it myself. I already have game development publishing. That's it. I don't need to take anymore. And that would be a bit unfocused. However, if there were an intelligent individual looking to engage in business, I'd be willing to provide financial support in exchange for a modest share. I would give him money for tests and tell him basically what to do, where to look for freelancers. Such a story is possible in principle. I think it could be for someone, well, a good option. Well, and in general, partners, they're developers, so you can write. At the end, I'm on the next slide. There will be my contacts. There's Telegram, VK.
After the last interview, people wrote to you?
150 people, probably. Very, very many. They wrote in the beginning just for that. They ended all DMs with messages.
Looking for a partner or employees? Join me for an interview to find the right match.
It's really cool in terms of, yeah, a lot of interesting guys wrote, but mostly newbies, they were skimming. Well, here's the thing about the job. Not work on the mistakes, but how to say, like, shorter. Simply put, after the interview, I had a lot of guys writing to me. Nearly every single one of them, a whopping 90%, were complete newcomers. Many individuals are currently attempting to develop hyper-casual games, which I find to be dreadful. They browse through platforms like Google Play and come across repetitive concepts, like a ball constantly bouncing on an unending track.
No.
These creators then assume, I suppose this is popular among these foolish smartphone users. They attempt it, but it fails to yield desired results. It is truly exasperating when individuals opt for this approach instead of the specific niche I advise them to pursue. Above. They do some hyper-casualty. Look, hyper-casualties, they basically go 1 in 300. If you're an experienced developer, like you're a studio doing something, and if you're an inexperienced developer, your chances are, I don't know, objectively, probably less than 1 in 1,000. Well, in short, it's so bad that you'll spend your whole life making these hyper-casuals, that is, some super simple games. Here. And nothing good will come out of it. I once had a young man come to me expressing his desire to work as a personal assistant. In order to help him find opportunities, I decided to advertise his skills. However, it turns out that he is a novice coder with a specialty in contra coding. Although his coding abilities are quite weak, I offered some advice. I suggested that he create a game centered around the character Stigman and his adventures. He took my advice and created a game that is extremely simple with platforms for the characters to jump on. Unfortunately, he is now releasing it on multiple platforms without much thought. Despite this, he provided us with a copy of the game, and surprisingly, he has been earning around $5 per day from it. Given the circumstances, I believe this is the best outcome he could have achieved at his current stage. A beginner. And if he had done hyper casual, that would have been it. That's why, well,
he'd have 50 downloads.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
It's
the
kind of a
field.
shame. If there weren't so few of them, I'd be like that. It's just all of them writing. And I think, man, poor guys. And they're like that, not like over there. I made a hyper casualization in a week. They're like, well, I've been working on it for 6 months. I'm like, oh my God, why? It is immensely exasperating. I mean, goodness, I am extremely, extremely, extremely frustrated. Objectively speaking, it is rather unpleasant for me to inform somebody that their game has absolutely no chances of succeeding. It is a complete waste. You are going about it the wrong way. You have wasted 6 months of your life, you know, and that is a lot. That is why it is better to consider your approach beforehand. Here, at the very least, take this advice. Even if you end up doing something foolish and irrelevant, at least choose a more popular niche, as I mentioned earlier. Those slides consisted of presentation slides. They will be out of place. Although on HTML games they may be better, but they still, I don't think they'll carry much. That's it, that's all. The last slide is, well, like I said, we're helping developers to go to HTML. These are the platforms, the major platforms. We're trying to choose the best ones. They put a plugin in their game and give us the build. Here we design these games, place them right there, the keywords that fit the game. It is desirable, of course, that the game was in a niche of some kind made, such as one of those that I named above. But if it's not, it's like, okay, we'll also write down what we can and then summarize the payments from the sites and already send to the developers. So it's basically just like normal publishing, but on these HTML platforms so that the developers have less trouble. Dealing with these platforms is not as interesting as developing a game, and it can be quite a hassle. The process is painful, and I much prefer the creativity involved in game development. But we're doing it slowly. We'll get to Odnoklassniki. Here, if anything, my contacts. So you can write any questions there. I generally answer there during the whole process.
I will then add your contacts in the description. If you have any questions, you can find a link to Arthur in the description. You can communicate with him to rent his games, or you can give them a try yourself if you have a surplus of free time available. Why not? In principle, probably everything. In the comments, if you have any questions, then write. Arthur will answer, I will answer, we will try to help. Overall, HTML5 is more alive than alive. You can make money, especially if you already have games, then come and ho, you have an additional source of income. Arthur also made an interesting point. When you begin, it is crucial to achieve your first outcome, a small step that provides insight into your goal. This allows you to familiarize yourself with the overall profile of your task. That's why HTML5, again, is designed for that, so that without marketing, without purchasing, without complicated ASA things, just a little bit of income, well, or a tangible income if the game comes in. So cool. Cool. Thank you so much, Arthur. Very cool, very useful. I think it's going to bring a lot of people a profile.
Thank you too. Well, for me, it's here now. It's an opportunity. It's here too. Maybe I'll find a partner or some good collaborator there. That would be great.
Okay, cool. That's it. Let's do it. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who watched the rest of it. Write your questions. Yeah, I'll be reading in the comments, watching. I'll answer what I can there.